living by those creeds, they'll find that money is just a tool. Some people use the tools to build, and some people use their tools to destroy. And money can destroy a person if they have no discipline. Money can destroy a person if they just kind of want to fit in.
Daddy, can I play the music now? Where did we go?
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood. Through the thick and thin, we hit no matter.
This is me and Daddy here, and Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something, founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, So Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Meska Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka D. Lee. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance. Episode 17, Saving Like a Mug Part 2. We continue our conversation with Lawrence, the neighborhood finance guy, as he talks about some of the biggest financial decisions, from choosing a spouse to building peace of mind, and even having difficult money conversations with grown parents. But one of their biggest financial choices is their partner or spouse. Once you kind of got or decided to get married, how hard or how was those conversations to either were you just equally yoked initially, or did you have to kind of develop that mindset to say, hey, let's do this? Because a lot of times, especially as men, the values are different. Some values may be different what you value from, what your spouse values. It might be experiential, it might be, self-care, it might be some of those things. How do you have those conversations to say, hey, this is what is a priority for our house, and this is how we can move forward?
Ooh, that is hard hitting. I think that's one of those very important conversations to have. I think for me and my wife, when I met her, I think I just purchased a home, so I was just kind of I was showing up at a Friendsgiving with some barbecue chicken and some whatever that I cooked up, and I'm just enjoying myself. And I thought I was landing some jokes, but only one person was laughing. It was like my wife. I didn't know her at the time, but she was just laughing at my jokes. And I left the place. I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's a wash. It's dead in the sand. But turns out she actually took a shine to me. Then we went, our first true date, we went to GameStop, might have been, or not GameStop, but one of those places. What's Dave & Buster's. That's where we went. We went to Dave & Buster's.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to the Dave & Buster's, and I whip out the card, like always, you about to swipe this card because it's what guys gonna do. We're gonna do the swipe.
Yeah.
And she was almost like she stopped my hand. She's like, wait a second. It was like, I have this coupon. It's like, what do you mean coupon? She's like, well, this week I knew we were gonna go to this thing, but I saw this coupon that was online, and I did the interesting. Instantly super interesting. Because I don't mind paying the cost because this is the date, but the fact that the person thought about you enough or thought about quote unquote us enough that she's rather cut the cost for us, that told me everything I need to know, that I need to pay attention. So the more I pay attention to her, it's not like we're not equally yoked in that sense of how we spent, but we started just having normal conversations. She was very balanced. She was easier to get along with, but I also told her where I stood. There wasn't a lie about where we were with money. And I also tried to explain to her what she could do as well for her money. Like, hey, she ever thought about your 401k? And then she was receptive to it. And then she kind of made those changes on her own too. Because then she's kind of nerdy and says like, I'll tell her something, but she's going to actually go look it up. And then the more she learned, the more she told her sisters as well and her friends, because she realized that I wasn't, making this stuff up. It's like, it's real stuff you can actually, really engage with. And lo and behold, later on, I was going to travel to 12 countries, right? That was it was going to be my cool trip. I'm going to go around. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's going to be amazing. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to help you plan. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, you can plan, it is what it is. And she's like, oh, I want to come for at least one, the first country or two. I'm like, all right, cool. You could come, I guess. I'm still going to roll out by myself and enjoy my life. And then she's like, eventually I'm gonna come with all of it. I'm like, what? So we ended up going to 12 countries in 14 days, and it was an amazing trip. And even then, some people was like, oh, you're gonna propose to her overseas? Like, no, man, this ain't that kind of tackiness. Like, we're gonna enjoy ourselves because that's what we're gonna do. And then I ended up proposing to her, I guess, at the end of the year that year, and from her mom, dad, and so on, and our family per se. So I know that would have been important to her. So it's not about. It's just the conversation about money was always all encompassing. It wasn't something that was hidden. It was something that we shared, something that she's seen. And I've always been very transparent with my my debt or what I had or didn't have. I think in the end, though, she did also. We decided to merge accounts. A lot of people aren't merging accounts anymore for some reason. I don't know why. It felt very weird to be at the bank like, merging the account, but after that, you could kind of continue. And I think the biggest.
So you merge.
Yeah,
I got a question on that because me and my wife is actually struggling.
We
merged everything.
Merge everything because if you're gonna file taxes jointly anyways. Why aren't you not, working with your money jointly? Because the more money you have together, the better it is that you could be more resourceful in how you engage that money. So do you manage? Does one person manage that account more than the other? I manage the account more than my wife does, but she has full access to all the accounts, and she also has full access to like our mint.com or even our personal capital, so she can see where all our money is going. And we also have a quarterly financial meeting. I guess we can have a quarterly financial meeting if we wanted to, but we also have like a Google sheet that she could see all the transactions, to kind of review what's going on. So for us, it's never been like a big primary concern because I studied accounting, I studied taxes. Like I'm a federal auditor, man. Like for her, she's an event planner. Like she's a business person for sure. She's not dumb, but it's almost like it doesn't make sense if you're not leveraging the resources in the family the way it's supposed to be. So if she was the accountant, then she'd likely be the one in charge generally of how it runs or the ideals behind it. But the first thing we did was actually pay off her debt. Like we paid off her credit cards first because that was costing us in interest. We paid down her student loan because it's just hanging around. Like we're just like let's knock these $20K down or whatever it is. Let's just knock it out. So we knocked down the things that were dragging us so we could actually move faster together. And I think the last thing I would say that I realized in the first couple of weeks or even the first couple of months, like when my wife goes to go get groceries, it's weird because I go directly. I beeline to get groceries. I go from my house to the grocery store and I beeline back. She does not do that. She goes to A grocery store, B grocery store, maybe C grocery store, maybe Marshall's, maybe Target, maybe whatever, and then she shows back up again. And in the process, money is spent. And sometimes money is spent on things that you'd never known about. So for us, we actually have a stipend that she gets on her own accord. I don't really need extra money, but she has her own stipend that she gets on her own, where she could buy things that she want to buy, or even help her family out. She wants to help her family out, or it's just a lot of things that guys typically don't buy that women buy, and that's what she has.
Yeah, I having those conversations. I think it's good to have those conversations. I tell my wife, I do think that it just costs more to be a female or a woman than it does a man most of the time. Just general upkeep and certain things that to make yourself feel good, not only for yourself, but going out and presenting. So that's normal. How did you become? Because this is what's just the diligence with the net max plan. How did you? And I know you're accountant. How did you drive that level of accountability, not only for yourself but for her? And how did you get so detailed and meticulous at tracking? Was it just, do you merely attribute that to your job, or do you feel like it wasn't my job besides that?
It definitely wasn't my job because that came later. It was just, I just thought it was fascinating. And I think it comes back down to that original question you asked, where's my first interaction with money? I actually saw a ledger. A ledger is literally like a written Excel sheet. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but for me, I thought I was like, wow, this is cool. It's like hieroglyphics. This is interesting. And for me, when I look at numbers or I become this quote unquote meticulous with it, it's because I just find it interesting. And I like to use these things like Excel to also help my own job performance, right? So the reason I use it is two terms: one, to track my own personal finances, but also to improve in my skill set. So therefore, I'm quicker at doing Excel, pivot tables, so on and so forth. So for me, it's a combination of both things, and it's just something I'm naturally good at. I've always played video games, RTS games, strategy games. So that level of strategy, the strategic thinking, was always part of who I was.
So I'm gonna ask you the age-old question that everybody always kind of asks in personal finance. Do you develop the emergency fund first, or do you knock out debt?
I knock out debt first. I think that's what I would do. Because the thing about, let's say, for example, if you didn't have a lot of money to ever begin with, and you're trying to get this emergency fund, you think you're doing well with it. Let's say put in $200 here and there. But if you're getting interest of $200 on the other side, you would have been better actually paying off your high interest debt first. As far as for peace of mind, or what is, really more popular for a lot of people, is that they feel that they need to, one, have the emergency savings and then pay down their debt. But for me, being more tactical in the way I approach things, or more like mathematically logical, I'm looking at a cash flow scenario where I said, you know what, instead of trying to hyper focus on building up this super reserve of money, I'd rather actually pay off this thing that's actually costing me more money. And I, even in the pandemic, there was this couple, and I still remember, I'm not going to put out their name, but they're like a financial influencer couple. And I guess they had over $100,000 in savings, because they learned from somewhere that savings is everything, and they need to have a year's worth of savings. So they had $100,000 in savings in 2020, in 2021. While everybody was making a buku amount of money just investing in the bare minimum of it, index funds, or even some dividend funds. This is how you make real wealth. But instead, they were so afraid, or they didn't understand how the math really works, that they, in my opinion, they had way too much money in their high interest savings, and they were missing out on opportunities to build that into real wealth. Even if they took half of it and invested it in any, like an Apple stock, or even like a VOO, they'd probably be up nearly 80%.
Yeah. One thing I learned is that, I don't know where I learned this, but somebody said you can't save yourself to wealth. You can save yourself to a scenario that something pops up. Most of the times, emergency fund is just like, oh, something pops up, but it's not really wealth building. It's just like life building. Hey, certain things happen.
It's peace of mind. It's just peace of mind.
It's peace of mind. Yeah.
I came up with the idea and the understanding that, hey, I guess for your peace of mind, for any living adult that's in your household, $2,500 should be the amount. At least if you're starting off. If you're not making a lot of money, you don't have all of it together, $2,500 for every adult, and $5,000 per kid. Because kids are funny that they could run into a tree and then you're down $4,000. I don't know how, but it's just the way it is. So if you're a household of 4 per se, then that'd be $15,000. That is not a lot of money per se, but it's a good sum to cover an AC repair, car issues, or whatever it is. A good sum to start off with. Is a good sum to make you feel financially stable and secure, with a certain level of peace of mind as you shift into making sure that you have your 401k matching, because a lot of people leave that on the table every year. They leave that $3,000 or $4,000, and they're like, oh, it's just $3,000, it's just $4,000. Well, over 30 years, that's nearly $450,000 if it was invested in an 8% historical average. That's an easy amount. I'm looking around like that's the easy loss that a lot of people do, because they're so afraid of not knowing what that world is, that they rather just keep savings and maybe pay on credit card debt. And I also saw some people that are also auditors. A friend of mine's, brilliant lady, smarter than me by any circumstance. Yet she's like, I learned, oh yeah, I'm gonna transfer money from the credit card and I'm gonna freeze my credit card. You know what she ended up doing? She got another credit card and she ran the tab on that. So not only that she had the personal loan that she was trying to pay off, but she ended up having additional credit card debt, because in the end of the day, she didn't understand that she had a spending problem and she had a discipline problem. Those are the biggest things. So for me, in case of an emergency I have an emergency savings plan. I have an emergency plan. I don't have emergency savings. I have an emergency plan. So when you get hit by an emergency, the first thing, they're not going to say, hey, let's go to your bank savings account. At the doctor's office, you're going to have to reach out for your credit card. That's what's going to happen. I have an emergency spending plan. That's it.
How would you consider your relationship with money now, compared to when you were growing up? So obviously the way that you look at money, the way you value money is different. How would you say that relationship has changed, good or bad? And what are the steps that others could take to change their relationship with money?
Complicated two-parter. So for me, if I had to go back, I think even when I saw the ledger, I started saving more money. That means I started walking instead of trying to hit the like one of those bus routes, whatever, and pay a certain amount of money. I kept more of this like lunch money because I knew that I wanted to save it more. So I always had a piggy bank with some level of money or resources in there for me in case something happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even it's almost like an evolution of self. Like down the line, I just ended up, now understanding I could bring in more money. I don't overspend like a lot of people do with their money. I'm still the same guy. I still have the same
Mm-hmm.
values, the same, the same things I love to do is still the same thing I love to do. Play video games, travel, and maybe spend time with my wife and my dog, so on and so forth. All those things are still exactly the same. I think once people realize what's truly important to them, what's truly valuable in life, what their purpose is, and living by those creeds, they'll find that money is just a tool. Some people use the tools to build, and some people use their tools to destroy. And money can destroy a person if they have no discipline. Money can destroy a person if they just kind of want to fit in they use money to try to fit in to other people and their expectations. And money itself, in an inverse sense, could be a tool that opens up a lot of opportunity, not just for yourself, but your loved ones, your friends, or even your community. When you start to do what you need to do, it'll always, and I guarantee you, always open up the floor to do more than you ever thought was ever possible.
If you were to talk back to your younger self, or if you had a nephew, a niece, a child, that was coming up, what would be the first thing that you would tell them in relationship with their finances and money?
In the relationship where they're fine, like a kid, it depends. I would probably center them that money is not necessarily the end all be all. Not having money is not the end all be all. Not, being rich is the end all be all. Working on your personal character is way more important than money. If you have no character, then it doesn't matter the amount of money you have, because I could give people money, but I won't give a person with no character any money at all. I think that's a big thing. I would not. I tell that to my cousins, my nieces, my little, my nephews, and people that's just running around like, yo, yeah, I would never give you a dime if you don't figure yourself out. I will sooner see you starve. Like, and just to force you to really evolve and change and realize that that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a person of pure character.
I learned a new term not too long ago. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And it seems like you fit that category. It's called a dinkwad. Have you ever heard of it?
Dinkwad. Man, that was messed up. That's not the dinkwad. hey, if that's what it is, I thought I was a stoic, but hey, it is what it is.
So it stands for double income.
Okay, no kids.
Household without a dog, with a dog.
With a dog, okay. With a dog, okay. That's what they're calling that now. I know about the dinks, but I didn't know there was a
the dinks.
So
now, so I heard exactly. I just heard it. So you're a dinkwad. How what is your everybody's situation is different, but say what and people's financial goals change and evolve. But a lot of times people say, what's that fire movement? What's that fire number? Are you looking, hey, 3 years from now, you're a millionaire.
Next year, man. Don't put that on me. This next year, bro. It's next year, man.
Student
loans also paid off too. Next year, bro.
Exactly. Student loans completely paid off. And what is your financial goals at that point? Is it just kind of passive income? Is it just, hey, I want to work part-time? What doors do you want that independence to open up for you and your wife?
Me and my
And
wife,
your dog.
yeah, me and my wife, I guess my dog as well, she's gonna benefit from this. We want to retire early. So we're going to retire in 15 years. That is the goal. How
Mm,
we get there, I do not. One thing that I learned too about, I guess this entire financial literacy movement is that people pick and choose like a philosophy that they stick with. You have the Dave Ramseyites, we got the Robert Kiyosaki-ites out here, and then you have
mhm.
maybe some Grant Cardones or something. Like there's all these camps that people just live in and sleep in. I'm not that person. I dabble in every piece. I learn as much as possible from Suzanne Orman or whoever, because I find that knowledge itself is more powerful for me to use in however way you could use it. And by that I mean making sure that we're maximizing our 401k, IRA, and HSA. That's going to be our baseline. We have a pension with a government job that I have. We're also creating dividend portfolios to support our parents in their retirement and also ourselves, as well as hopefully, if my wife will allow it, hopefully buy a few more homes, rental incomes to kind of bring in, because if we have the money, may as well use it to create that, because those rental incomes, in my opinion, down the line, I'm going to make them into scholarship homes when I retire.
Mhm.
So ultimately, all this to lead me to 15 years from now, which should be 2038, to retire probably north of $5 million.
Mm.
That's the theory.
And now,
Until we get there, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, no, no. I mean, it's powerful, and just being a Black household, first generation household. I mean, if you look at the statistics, there's that's less than 1% of 1% of minority households are even getting close to $1 million. Nonetheless, 5 million. So, creating that generational wealth and generational prosperity. You touched on one other topic that I'm working on now is how, especially, and this is a hard one, value systems, not only for yourself, for your parents. So now, we're getting in the age where our parents are becoming older, and they have certain situations, but their value system, especially if they're born overseas, or they may not see the value in like estate planning. They might not see the value in some of these things now that, with more time and more experiences, hey, these are things that are really helpful. How do you have those conversations? How do you start those conversations for somebody who may or may not share some of the values that you've kind of picked up?
Well, first I tell my friends, like, the first thing that you do, you have to figure out your system as well before you go start talking to your parents. I think some people hear these
Mhm.
conversations about estate planning, or hey, my mom or dad doesn't have a will, but I'm like, but you don't have a will. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might
Mm,
want to figure that part out too, because your parents could be more receptive to you if you actually had experience. If
mhm,
you don't have experience, what that looks like, you just look like a child to your parents. Like, you're a child
mm,
with a complaint, like, as you always have a complaint, but you don't have any resources and any results and any tangible solutions for them. I think when you start thinking about your parents' personal finances, you better have your personal finances, up to par, at least working on it. You don't have to be perfect,
mhm.
but you have to have also gone through the evolution before you require somebody else to step up, right? So
Absolutely.
first generation household, and our parents are Haitian Americans, and they don't have any savings, none at all. Like, I generally, I guess my mom had like
The
50.
kids are their retirement plan.
Yeah, they didn't think about it too
You'll
much, and
take
a
care
lot
of
of time, a
us.
lot of times they thought they was going to go back to the old country, right? That's what I'm going to go back and
Yeah.
retire to the old country. But the old country that you left in the 80s is not the same old country anymore. So there's a lot of those type
Mhm,
of changes. They're going to realize it, and they're going to just end up being here, and they're going to
mhm.
cost us to the detriment of $2,000 per month per adult. I actually did the math. You don't have to do it for yourself, but just in case you know, the average retiree expenses is around $50,000 per year. The average, I guess, Social Security benefits, which Black people rely on 80% of the way, is $24,000 a year max. That is
Mhm.
a almost like a net shortfall of around
A delta,
$24,000
yeah.
per
Mhm.
adult. That's basically $2,000 per month. So if you think right now, like your parents not having a retirement plan is not your issue, just know down the line they're going to be short at least $2,000 per month. How do I even know that? Because I do my mom taxes, and she retired, during the pandemic. Turns out, I was shocked. I was going to sleep when I thought about it. The numbers hit me. He's like, she only got $15,000, less than $15,000 in Social Security benefits. That's the amount. So she's living off of $1,250 a month. That's the amount. She is running short, and you could tell like that your parents are running short because
poverty line.
Yeah, their tempers start to change. They start stressing out more. They break down more. This is a problem. I think there was a research paper that came out that people closer to that poverty line die 25 years younger than people that are on the wealthy spectrum per se. So there is such a thing as broaching that conversation with yourself first, being honest with yourself about where you're at, fixing your personal finances before you jump ship to go fix yourself to tell your parents how to live and what to do. Because they worked very hard to even, if you have parents around, they work very hard to provide at least something for you, because they had to, especially for first generation, they left their home country to sometimes learn a whole new language, not fitting in, all of that stuff, all to establish themselves here, just for you to years later say, hey, guess what? You don't have a will. You don't have no money. You can't come up like this. Slow it down, figure out what it is, and then realize that, hey, with the tools that they had and the time that they were given, they didn't have the same stuff that we have. Absolutely. Access to even making trades online. They couldn't do that. You know what they had to do? They had to take time off of work. A lot of times they work hourly. They went into the bank. They sat there, waited until a person showed up, looking a little sweaty, a little bit weird, and he sold them a garbage product that he made money off of. That's how they invested back then. And that's why they didn't like investing, because that entire scenario was different for them. So living in their shoes in their time was a different scenario. For us, we have different tools, we have opportunities, we have almost like a throughway that we can use today to actually create something. And the best thing for, at least for me and my family, and I recommend for anybody else, is to look at your personal finance and then expand it to the family finances. How do I ensure my family stays together? How do I ensure that people don't die because of stress, anxiety, and other issues with money, whereas we can actually solve it? Meaning, hey, how much do mom and dad owe on the home? If they owe $50K, then that $50K is between you. If you're a single person, a single child, then that's on you. But if you have siblings, then you look at every other sibling and say, hey, we owe $50K on the house. What can we do? Because that home now could become an asset to your family. You could rent it out, or somebody else could move into it. Maybe not, or the person that don't have a home, they could move into the family home, and boom, they don't have to spend that much money anymore. So there's opportunity to really grow. But you can't work yourself backward, and you can't just come to mom and dad and say, hey, guess what? You don't have a will. I'm going to need you to be on this will real quick so I can make this money. It doesn't make any sense.
So two last things. I have a your verse, your lesson, which I'm starting up. So basically, if you have any verse from the culture, could be from the Bible, could be a grandmother saying that you came up, that you kind of like, yo, this is something that really was impactful to me in way in which I look at the world, or way in which I look at money. What is it, and what did it mean to you?
I got a quote, my own quote. The cup is neither full or empty. It's neither half full or half empty. If you're thirsty, drink. A lot of people waste time trying to figure out if it is half full or half empty. It doesn't matter. If you're really a thirsty person, you're just going to drink. If you're not thirsty, don't drink. That's just as simple as that. I think we overcomplicate life, and we try to make things deeper than they are. Whereas if you're really hungry and you're really like thirsty, you just do, you act. And I think that's how you need to live life, not in the spaces between the words, but actually in the words themselves.
All right, that was a good one. I'm gonna choose a financial word of the day real quick, and then I'm gonna tell you, pick a number. I'm gonna take 3 cards. That's like I'm out in Vegas.
Out here playing the game, running the slots. Let's run the play.
All right. Pick a number, between 1 and 3.
3.
Oh, this is amazing. This was the word that actually came up with our last one. So I'm gonna do this one. Interest, which is additional money paid for the use of money borrowed. What is your experience with the word interest?
In 2 ways. We pay interest to the credit card companies where we borrow money. And the longer we borrow money, the more interest we pay. Or we invest and they pay us interest in the terms of capital gains or dividends in the opposite direction. So there are 2 ways to look at interest. One that takes away and one that gives you.
And what was your experience or understanding of the word interest while growing up?
Interest, I don't think I ever remember interest growing up. I don't think we ever even talked about it. Most of the time money came in and money was spent to survive. So there was no in between. There wasn't even a credit card. So there wasn't really a concept of interest in that sense.
Bye. Bye, fans. Thanks for the time. On Failure by Certain Kindness. Daddy, Jordan, and Devon. And Mommy. And Mommy.
Who's got my back?
I got your back.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it out.
Purpose to make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar. Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on it. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So your cry.
Everybody need love. I'm tired of my problems, I'm tired of the drama, I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the hurting, I'm tired of the working, I'm tired of the struggling, I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But I have to say, I'll just wait.
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.